Yes, I am. Okay. Hello, I am Jonathan Miller. I am going to be talking about human-caused global climate change. I am currently in a class of Biology 101 at the University of Maryland Global Campus, and my instructor is Dr. Oguari Raphael. I will be explaining to you our current state of climate change in the human era, which we have directly caused from our influence of greenhouse gases. On the next slide, okay, the greenhouse effect. Yes, my microphone is on. I've recorded this like 6 times now. I kept messing it up. The greenhouse effect. Sunlight enters the Earth's atmosphere. Some heat escapes, but the green... Okay, let's explain. Sunlight obviously generates heat. Heat's going to go in the atmosphere, right? The heat's got to go somewhere. Some heat escapes the atmosphere, but the greenhouse gases trap some heat. These greenhouse gases include CO2, which you know is the majority of the Earth we breathe out, and also the majority of the air we breathe in, water vapor, and methane. It's a normal process. However, human interference and emissions from fossil fuels are affecting levels of CO2 and methane in the atmosphere, increasing greenhouse gases and the temperature of the Earth, the average temperature, right? So, greenhouse effect is a very normal thing. It happens to every planet with an atmosphere. Mars, Venus, Jupiter a little bit. Venus especially. Venus has a lot of CO2 in the atmosphere, and the sun blaring down directly on it. All the carbon dioxide traps all of that heat and makes Venus an extremely hot planet. As we as humans are generating more and more CO2 from burning fossil fuels, we are generating more and more CO2 to trap that heat in the Earth, a lot more than what was before. The greenhouse effect is a natural process from a planet containing an atmosphere. Put very simply, atmosphere acts as a blanket holding everything inside of it, such as oxygen, nitrogen, specifically heat. The oxygen and nitrogen are greenhouse gases, and the heat is the heat. Greenhouse gases act as an insulator for this blanket, trapping heat, condensing the atmosphere into more gases. This is normal as the Earth has contained gases for a very long time. However, as we burn fossil fuels, we burn more gases in the atmosphere than normal, trapping more heat and heating the planet beyond its normal state. Oops, let me put this in present mode. Okay. I got this from the EPA. EPA, for those of you guys who watch the Simpsons movie. EPA, whatever. Most of you guys probably don't get that joke, but anyways, yeah, they know quite a bit about protecting the atmosphere and environment, and clearly they're not happy with how we have been doing in the last few decades. Okay, fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are ancient stored carbon underground from specifically old fossils, hence the name. Dinosaurs and such, the bones contain whatever. That's chemistry. I'm in biology. I am not a chemist and do not know how fossils turn into carbon. However, they do, which the carbon is eventually turned into oil, and humans burn the oil and coal to power our infrastructure and economy. The burnt carbon becomes CO2 in the atmosphere, which is significantly more than what we breathe. Through several dozen years, this has been and will continue to affect the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, trapping more heat on the planet. Fossil fuels are used all throughout society. They're the cornerstones of modern-day humanity, and we have built nearly all infrastructure around fossil fuels, which is now beginning to pose a problem as we close to an end of the world's fossil fuel reserves. We are not out of fossil fuel reserves. We are not running close to the end. Okay, I'll explain it more at the end of the slides, but we're not going to run out of fossil fuels. We're not going to run out of oil. We're still going to have gas cars for a very, very long time, way longer after than we have electric cars, and it's for a specific reason, a specific, kind of formula within the human population. Okay, and fill our planets with more CO2. As we burn through those fossil fuels, they release harmful gases, which both warm our planet and pollute our air. As we burn fossil fuels, they're going to release CO2, which is the main contributor to greenhouse gases and greenhouse effect. We breathe out carbon dioxide all the time. It's like I said in the last couple of slides, it's very normal. The greenhouse effect is very normal. However, we are accelerating it at a very abnormal rate at our point in time because of the amount of CO2 we're releasing in the atmosphere. Ecological effects of climate change. Oceans are becoming warmer, which can cause several damaging ecological effects. I don't know if you guys remember from Bill Nye the Science Guy, El Nino. El Nino is not Not 100% certain how it works, but it's just essentially some weather pattern along the ocean that changes as the ocean becomes warmer. And the warmer it gets, the stronger El Nino will get. I don't have a specific source for this, but I'm just saying this from the top of my head. You've seen this across Instagram. El Ninos can become significantly worse as time goes on. Warmer ocean temperatures can stress coral reefs and lead to coral bleaching, which is when coral reefs die and turn white. When coral reefs die, many ocean species lose important habitats. Warmer oceans can also add more energy and moisture to tropical storms, which can make hurricanes and typhoons more intense. Got this from NASA. NASA knows quite a bit about climate change specifically because they're going to space to get the hell out of the planet. But they also observe the Earth from space. They observe hurricanes and weather patterns and just plenty of specific correlations in temperatures to climate change. Human health impacts. Amongst do not. Several highly threatening impacts ranging from a weakening economy to food and water insecurity from droughts in Midland, where the majority of crops grow. Economy is not going to affect human health. Maybe mentally, we'll mentally be freaked out by the fact we don't have any money to afford the oxygen they're selling us. But it will affect our food and water. The hotter things get, the harder it's going to be for crops to grow. Crops do need heat to grow, but too much heat is going to probably kill the crops and cause a hell of a lot less water to be able to grow in those areas, especially Midland, where the droughts are going to be most strong. Inland or outwards towards the coast, it's going to be a lot of typhoons and such, and hurricanes, which you're starting to see in more modern ages. But we don't grow crops there. We grow bananas and coconuts, and we don't eat bananas and coconuts. We eat those for breakfast, not for dinner and lunch. We eat steak and corn, potatoes. No coconuts. So we're gonna be eating that. And the more droughts we have, the less corn and taters we're gonna have. Got this from the CDC. Obviously, they know a lot about diseases and such. They're gonna rate and range between humans for climate change, especially as dust and carbon goes into the atmosphere. The solution to our crisis, my bread and butter. I love the solutions to climate change. I don't read a whole lot about specifically climate change itself and how the climate changes, but I do like to read about and research our solutions to climate change because I know we're all going through an energy crisis, regardless if you want to believe it or not. There is an energy crisis, especially with current political events. The Strait of Hormuz is closed, and it opens and closes up several times. But oil is becoming a rare and rarer commodity throughout the world. And we're going to have to start thinking of different solutions. And luckily, our good scientists back home, have been thinking about this for a very, very long time. There are several hopeful solutions to our crisis that we're not too late to capitalize from. Many people may be heard saying that our planet is doomed and the future is bleak, but the exact opposite is being projected. I've said this so many times that I say this again. Okay. So I heard a lot of people talking about several times. A lot of people, especially, younger folks who be reading about the planet and thinking, okay, well, we're cooked. We're done. In the next 20 or 30 years, we are going to die and the planet is going to burn to a crisp. That is wrong. As I said, climate change is natural. It happens whenever the planet decides. Climate change is going to happen. The planet is going to heat up. We cannot stop it. However, what we have done to our planet is, again, increase the amount of CO2 within the atmosphere. CO2 traps heat. Heat will increase the heat on our planet, obviously. It'll increase the temperature. However, we have not doomed it to a apocalyptic view. We have, however, put it in a spot where in the next 40 or 50 years, it's become a lot hotter. It's going to get hot, regardless if we like it or not. We're going to sweat, and some of our crops are going to die, and some of our people are going to, have empty stomachs. But we're going to be fine as human beings. We've got it figured out. We've been thinking about this for a while. The nuclear solution. I'll go off, what I said on the before slide after I go through these renewable energy solutions. Okay, nuclear. I love nuclear so much. It's It is my happy place. I love to know about the fact that we have nuclear power plants running a lot of our places in our background. Nuclear energy generates uranium. Okay. Generates uranium and plutonium waste that can be mostly renewed directly back into nuclear energy. I did not say it in the slide, but simply how nuclear reactors work. It's super simple. If you ever watched Chernobyl or you research Chernobyl, it's all over YouTube. All nuclear power plants do is simply create a reaction between, I believe it's boron and uranium, and create a significant amount of heat, a huge amount of heat after sending neutrons into these unstable atoms to separate and generate a large amount of heat to boil water, specifically boil water, not vaporize water into steam, because that will create a positive void coefficient, I believe, is what Chernobyl had the issue with. They had a positive void coefficient, and whenever it messed up, it became really bad, because when steam becomes steam, it can just keep getting hotter and keep getting hotter. And whenever it gets hot enough, it's going to explode. However, it has a negative void coefficient. Whenever the reactor shuts down or overloads, it doesn't have the ability to run off of steam. It has the ability to run off of boiling water. Okay? So whenever the water boils, it's going to run. But if it starts to steam or turns back into water, it's going to shut down, because it's not designed to run off of steam or just regular water. Okay? So, yeah, that's how Chernobyl messed up, because, steam's just going to keep getting hotter, but it's designed to run off of steam, so it's going to keep getting hotter and hotter and hotter until it decides to explode. So, well, we learned from that. Soviets learned from that, and now we are only running nuclear reactors off of a negative void coefficient, where it only runs off boiling water. This reaction between boron and uranium, or radium or americium, any unstable nuclear material that is radioactive, as long as it generates heat and creates a nuclear reaction, it'll generate a lot of heat and boil this water and spin turbines. Yeah. It'll spin the turbines, and turbines generate electricity. That's pretty much all electricity is generated, is through spinning stuff. Anyways, yes, this generates a large amount of energy. Decades of research led to it being one of the safest and most efficient forms of energy. Yes, Chernobyl happened, but that'll never happen again, because we are not idiots like what they did back then. We know exactly what we did wrong. Scientists are really smart now, and they know exactly what they're doing. Nuclear fusion. Okay, now I'm starting to go into things. Nuclear fission is what we're using now. It's where you separate these atoms of uranium and unstable radioactive materials. Fusion is where you fuse them together. And I'm not going to get into that. That is way too crazy. But however, long story short, it generates significantly more energy and is way more efficient than nuclear fission. And it could potentially generate endless energy. Well, at least in our eyes. Yes, energy is not endless, but it can potentially generate significantly more, and in our eyes, endless energy. We're a lot closer than we were 10 years ago, and we're way, way more closer than we were 30 years ago. Okay. Goes from the International Atomic Energy Agency. They run and inspect nuclear power plants. I'm sure they know everything about nuclear power plants. Electrical storage and solar and wind and hydro energy. This is where most people hear renewable energy. Okay, I did not read off of this. Okay, well, this is the last one that I said. Nuclear energy this is off the script. Nuclear energy has been around for decades. A typical nuclear reactor generates about 1 gigawatt of electricity while actively running. That is enough to power 760,000 homes. That is 760,000 families being powered by one nuclear power plant. That is insane. However, it is not cheap and requires billions of dollars of equipment, labor, and materials. However, once operational, it can produce large amounts of electricity for decades with its low fuel cost and very, very low carbon dioxide emissions during operation. Anyways, the next one. Okay, electrical storage and solar and wind and hydro energy. Most methods of energy production create and store electrical energy. As I said before, that's what nuclear does. A lot of fossil fuels do that as well, but not all of them. Some of them, like the combustion engine, just straight up turn engines, but they have an alternator attached to them. The world is built on fossil fuels. Okay, here we go. This is the counter argument that I love to argue. The world is built on fossil fuels, and these take fossil fuels to create. I've heard this so many damn times of how, like, oh, look at that. You see that? You see that one windmill? You know how many years of it's gonna take to offset its carbon footprint because of the amount of fossil fuels it takes to create that? Like, okay, dude. Well, when you build a world on fossil fuels, yes, of course, it's going to take fossil fuels to build other things. No, obviously, it's going to take fossil fuels. Okay? I'll get into this in my next slide. Okay, let me just finish this. I'll get into this. I have a huge rant about this. These sources are virtually endless and produce little to no waste. Okay, bread and butter of renewable energy. The sun, the wind, and water are virtually endless. Yes, the wind may die down and the water may get low, but capitalizing off of energy floating in the air is a no-brainer. The argument, okay, here we go. I went off in the script, okay, because this really made me upset. It takes several times more fossil fuels to create the energy sources that the footprint would offset. Is extremely common and almost never. I went off. I said this. Never thought more in depth. It is a Facebook user level argument. Of course, it takes fossil fuel. Okay, whatever. It's the same exact thing I said. Okay, let's go on the reflection side. I'm going to go off what I said. Okay, yes, it takes a lot of energy to create these fuels. It takes a lot of energy to create solar panels and windmills and dams to capitalize off of hydro energy. Obviously, because when you make I don't even know. I feel like there's a perfect example of this, but obviously, when you build a world around fossil fuels and only oil powered, yes, when you produce something, it's going to take fossil fuels. And it's going to take a long time of using those fossil fuels in order to replace your fossil fuels with renewable energy. So, yes, we're going to use fossil fuels and emit a large carbon footprint generating these things. But once we, however, we can't just magically create a solar panel factory. It will take decades before we can replace fossil fuel powered production lines with their solar powered counterparts. It's going to take a while. Stop using that argument that it's going to that solar panel, took 48 million years worth of of fossil energy to create. Whatever, dude. Okay? It's going to take like another 300 million more. But whatever, dude. Eventually we'll be fully renewably energy independent. Okay? And it's gonna get hotter. We're gonna probably add some more carbon footprint using these things, but eventually it'll stop, and we'll use completely electrical energy, whether people like it or not. If they want to keep complaining about okay, well, whatever, we're cooked. Okay, well, that's your opinion. We're gonna switch to electrical energy. It's what's gonna happen. Okay. Anyways, reflections of fossil fuels. The world's not going to end. We have a plan. I said that already. Renewable energy powers 30% of the world's energy. If you have not researched this, I believe 10 or 20 years ago, renewable energy powered 10% of the world's energy. That is a massive jump in 10 years. That is way faster than the Industrial Revolution. We are making progress in renewable energy. Regardless of what somebody says, this is a fact. Renewable energy powers 30% of the world's energy. And generating this renewable energy is dropping less and less every day, little by little. And eventually, it'll be 100%. We have no choice. Either 100% or we're all going to die. But we have a plan. We're using solar panels. We're using wind energy. Misconceptions of how renewable energy. Okay, I already went over that. The world's going to get hotter. It's not going to be fun. Yes, I said that. It's going to get hotter eventually. Future potential energy sources such as orbital solar panels, geothermal energy, and nuclear fusion. Okay, talk about nuclear fusion. Orbital solar panels sound like science fiction. Literally, it's all it is. It literally sounds fake. But yeah, you put solar panels in orbit around the planet, unobstructed by the atmosphere, because the atmosphere does indeed take energy from the rays going to the solar panels to generate energy, and it just bypasses that and goes into space. It's like, okay, I'm going to take it all. And it uses microwave radiation, which I could be wrong. I am not a astrophysicist. I don't know how this works. I don't know how microwave radiation works. But it is, again, theoretical. It shoots microwave beams down to Earth, and it just straight up takes energy from the sun from there. It's like it's invisible. It's pretty cool. Electrical vehicles. Pretty simple. We're going electrical. They suck right now, but you've seen hybrids get way better. Back when, I don't know, the Tesla came out, it really, really sucked, but now it sucks a little less. It's not bad. But hybrids came out a while ago. They really sucked when they first came out, but now they're actually really, really good. They're actually, in my opinion, way better than gas vehicles. And again, the world will realistically not run out of fossil fuels. We're not going to run out of fossil fuels. I did not go over this. We're not going to run out of fossil fuels. Long story short, eventually we're going to replace everything, and whether you like this or not, we're going to replace everything with electricity. And I'm not saying this because like I support or advocate for it. It's just kind of a fact. You can see how much faster renewable energy is starting to take over the world, and it's going to keep happening. Eventually, you're going to be forced to buy an electrical car or at least a hybrid because the prices are going to get so insanely expensive, and you're going to have to start buying an electric car. Yeah, and eventually we're just going to stop using fossil fuels, and it's just going to sit there. Like, okay, why did we use that in the first place? Why didn't we just figure this out in the first place? And let's reflect on that. Sorry, this was a little bit of an opinion advocated presentation because this is a very passionate thing about mine. I love renewable energies. Anyways, very end of everything. My final question to everyone. Do you think humanity has a prosperous future a century from now? Or do you think we'll be facing a severe energy crisis affecting all of us? Thank you, and you guys have a wonderful day.